We can begin in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Fragments of silicon is not suitable for use as a jigsaw puzzle.
All right, welcome to another installment of Fragments of Silicon, back at its normal time. I'm your host, Adam, and joining me, as always, is the regular crew. Yeah, Mac's back with us this week.
Hooray!
Ogre's here.
Throws a snowball at Mac.
Galix.
Please don't joke about snow.
Bitch, I just shoveled earlier.
Now you can detail your snow wars.
I know. Anyway.
Yeah, it's like Twilight.
Hello.
You're here. We can hear you.
Yep.
You sound like that's
Petty.
a revelation.
Well, he answers like yellow, like answering the phone here. Like, anyway, and Petty fan.
It was 60 here today.
Man, that's shorts weather.
Yeah, I'm like, I think. Anyway, let's get to the news. Let's see who to pick. Ogre, why don't you go first because you got a new Let's Play going.
I'm waiting for the day that I either hear a dartboard or just a roulette wheel just go.
I mean, if you really want, I can rig that up.
I'm like,
Anyway, let's see. Today it
The wheel of
snows last
misfortune.
night, so whoopee! First day of spring, my ass. And we live in like southwestern Ohio, so don't know how that managed it. But so I had to shovel earlier for that. Wasn't that bad. By the time we did that, it was kind of warming up, so the snow was easier to move. But
But it was at that point where you had to move it or it was going to refreeze kind of thing.
yeah, I don't know if they're calling for a refreeze or not. I think it's supposed to warm up, but then maybe some over the weekend.
Hmm.
Let's see, and what else? We started Kirby Star Allies. Pretty much wanted to jump on that as soon as we could, so... Yeah,
It seems to be pretty popular.
well, it's a Kirby game, so there's not really a whole lot you can go wrong with.
well, it's also it's your 10th anniversary, and you kind of need to do a Kirby game since you
Yeah.
started out with a Kirby game.
Yeah, it's in April anyway, so...
I'm pretty sure you're going to be playing this in April. So.
Yeah.
I know. Let's see. What else? I'm trying to think of more. I did blood donation yesterday, finally. Well, the only problem was that my iron peaks a little low sometimes, and I think the last 2 times I tried to do it, I was sick beforehand, so didn't exactly help with everything. But yeah, I finally did that. Oh, I also made it's not that important, but I think it's kind of funny that I made a jambalaya tonight, and I had some hot sauce in it, and apparently my cat did not realize that there was hot sauce in it, and every time she took a bite out of something that must have had it in there, you could see she took a moment to kind of like take it all in.
What the fuck is this?
She even had little like tears come down her eyes, and I was like, "Oh, you didn't expect that." But it didn't feel so bad because she went right in and kept eating some more. And I was like, "Well, I don't feel sorry for you now."
Spiciness is a weird thing because humans are the only animal who can actually deal with spiciness.
Yeah. I just looked at her and went like, listen, I don't feel sorry for you now. You do the exact same stupid shit I do, where I'm just like, it's too hot. The burning feels good.
You truly are my cat. Well done. You get to stay.
Yeah, she went to lay down. I think she had this look on her face like, oh, I ain't touching your plate again. But yeah. Other than that,
All right.
not much else. So.
All right. Petty Fan, why don't you go? Because you have potentially things to say that are.
Well,
of
I'm not gonna talk about that on air right now, for
Right,
obvious
right.
reasons.
Yeah,
But yeah,
I-
they could have some very negative effects on the show.
yeah.
It could be mild inconvenience to I may have to go away for a while.
We'll have updates on that as the situation unfolds. Let's say.
Mm-hmm.
I had a flashback to Charlie X from Star Trek, where he's like, "I made them go away."
Okay. Anyway, so continuing on with your regular news.
Let's see. I actually found some time to play some Monster Hunter. So I'm finally at the point where I can start dealing with Devil Joe. So that's gonna be fun. And by fun I mean, oh god, please don't eat me. Let's see. I also beat the game Icy. Those of you who watch our post shows a lot, I usually play it there, and I finally said, fuck it, I'm at the last level, let's just finish this. So I now need to look for something else to play for stream when we're doing post show, but we can figure that out later.
Okay then.
Let's see. I guess the only other thing is I'm trying to help my sister figure out if she wants a smartwatch and what to get. So that's been an adventure. Other than that, I think that's all for me until I can talk more about the stuff and things.
Right. All right, Mac, why don't you go next?
Whee! Okay. Where to start? Well, we've begun episode 2 of Starship Moonhawk.
Oh man.
There's actually a plan in place for a season 2. Cart meet horse.
Is it season 2 Electric Boogaloo?
Yeah. Oh god.
That wasn't a no.
Well, it's not 2 Starship, 2 Moonhawk.
Just stop.
We can go all night with this though.
Yeah, that's why I kind of stopped myself, because I'm just like, it's like throwing gasoline on a match. Thank you, Alan Rickman.
That's why you need to rein them in every once in a while.
Oh my god. Well, I'm just the executive producer. You're the host. Oh man. Game wise, I've been playing Mega Man, like classic Mega Man.
Super fighting robot.
Like through the series.
Yeah, well, I'm trying to unlock, of course, the arcade games in Anniversary Collection, and but I also want to beat Mega Man's 4 through 8, which I had never done first run, before Mega Man 11 comes out. I've played 9 and 10, didn't beat those either, but I don't know. I'm like, they're real Mega Man, but they're also not real Mega Man. I'm of two minds of that whole thing.
I always felt like they went a little too. I mean, the stage designs are not like terrible. The bosses are okay, but they went a little too retro, taking out the slide and the charge, especially the slide, but also the charge shot.
Yeah, I was kind of disappointed because you get used to a particular mechanic after 4 straight games, and then granted, there was a lot of time for our muscle memory to lapse, but to just completely take that out is like the rug out from underneath the feet.
That is one thing I'm looking forward to with Mega Man 11. It looks like it's going forward again. The retro Mega Mans were nice, but I do think that's one thing that kind of killed off Mega Man there.
Mm-hmm.
It's gonna be ironic if Mega Man 11's what Mighty Number 9 could have been.
Does anyone even think about Mighty Number 9 these days?
I think I'm
sometimes.
ashamed for kickstarting it, but that's about it.
Maybe occasionally.
I never played it. I was much happier to invest in Shantae Half Genie Hero.
I invested in both. I regret one of them.
Yeah, you see, I invested in the one I don't regret. This is true. Half Genie Hero is a pretty epic game, and I can play it on my little screen and feel like I'm reliving my past glory playing the Game Boy Advance games. Anyway, but yeah, so that's what's going on there. Starship Moonhawk is moving forward. We're gonna have the teaser act done by mid-April, so we can begin a Kickstarter that should end in May. We're trying to raise $3,000. There is an entirely new scene that we are going to attempt to construct Archer style near the end of the episode as a sort of experiment, because there is no pre-existing artwork for it. So our friend Oshigan, who is also known as Henderson Soares from Brazil, will be creating the black and white assets that I will then color, and Keith, Nathan Bonner, and I will animate them. And it is a scene not available in the webcomic, so that should be added incentive for people to donate to our Kickstarter and help us reach the $3,000 goal. All the proceeds will go towards preventing me from losing all my friends.
Wait, we can stop that?
And pay for the new art assets as well as actor salaries. So I don't really get a cut. It's just the glory of seeing my episode realized, and we've already got some pretty damn good headway. If you toddle over to the Discord for Pink Panties Productions, there is a new Starship Moonhawk room, and I've been putting out little tidbits and snippets because I myself have been learning Adobe After Effects. Yeah, I actually animated Solis with an angry anime eyebrow twitch. Which I was quite
not
pleased.
unrealistic. I'm pretty sure I've done that in real life a few times.
Yeah. So I'm pretty insufferably pleased with myself. I also clipped out all the assets to make a couple of full animations, which I'm quite pleased with. And of course, Nathan Bonner, being expert in Anime Studio, allowed him to put together a pretty nice set of, I think he's doing 10 shots. And they are a lot more than pans and scans. Let me tell you, he's actually chroma coloring the backgrounds, so that way we can insert higher resolution backgrounds than what was originally in the comic. And some of the animations are pretty hilarious, I might add, which is exactly the effect we wanted, because the sequence at the beginning of Act 2 between Cobalt and Solis has, I would say, more slapstick comedy and pratfalls than actual sexiness, in spite of the nudity. Which is exactly the effect I was going for. Was it's like, hey, yeah, we got all of this gratuitousness, and now it's turned into a Laurel and Hardy routine. So it's turned into the Two Stooges. So pretty excited about that. And then, of course, someday, if I ever have money again, I'll actually start purchasing new games. Hell, maybe I'll even get a Switch and start boring you guys to death about Xenoblade Chronicles 2.
That's on my list.
Earth all along? What?
Well, I'm super excited. I read the Wikipedia page on it. I'm super excited to know that it is literally the other half of the story from the original game. So that the same characters, the architect, exists in both universes, so it is literally telling the other side of the coin.
Nifty.
So that's, yeah, spoiler alert, Klaus returns. For those of you who actually know what the hell that means,
Like, like maybe one person in chat.
right? They're all like, "What?" They're like, "What's he talking about?"
Much to my
I
shame,
think,
I am still somewhat behind on some of your stuff.
wouldn't there have to be somebody in chat for that to matter?
Quiet you.
No. Actually, I think we've got 6 viewers right now. Last but not least, and then I'll wrap this up for me. We have returned updates of the Starship Moonhawk webcomic. So here's what's going to happen. There's 2 storylines that comprise season 1 of the animated series. They coincide with what already exists and what will exist in the immediate future for the webcomic. Okay. So the first 2 main story arcs of the webcomic comprise 11 episodes of the animated series. And that will be our season 1. So I've drawn some inspiration from Star Trek Discovery and broken up the first season into 2 major story arcs. Okay? And then following that, season 2 will actually be a time skip a year into the future of the animated series, while the webcomic continues chronicling one-shot adventures during that 1-year stretch. Now, we'll try not to do anything so earth-shattering in these one-shots that people will be lost if season 2 starts before we ever get to these storylines, which is extraordinarily likely because the next story arc, we still have about 45 more pages left in the Mercadian Affair. The next story arc is about 90 pages. And updating once a week, well, you can tell how long that's going to take.
Okay. Somewhere around the heat death of the universe?
Well, there is something else going on. Oshigan is doing the sketch pages for me. And I am inking them and then posting them in black and white until such time as we actually start getting some recognition for Starship Moonhawk, in which case then I will have Keith go back and retroactively start coloring every single page in the archive. So Starship Moonhawk is going to be black and white for quite some time. But we're doing a better job of it than we did the last time I added new pages to the storyline and just left them in their sketchy goodness. It helps a lot having your tools fixed. So for now, that's it for me. No news on novels, so not that anybody on this channel cares.
Well, we have to move on anyway. But,
Exactly. Moving on.
yeah. Galix, you're up.
I'll keep it short.
Actually,
I've
he's
been-
from Maine.
Yeah.
God damn it.
Well, we're supposed to get some more snow this like after midnight tonight and into tomorrow. Hopefully it won't be too much where I am, but it might be more where I go to work, which shouldn't be super fun. But hopefully it won't be too bad. Video game wise, someone might have mentioned that the new Kirby game came out, and I've been playing that, and it's pretty good so far. I like the assortment of powers in it. The new gimmick is okay, although it does kind of make the screen a little bit. I mean, having the four
It
characters.
is a little cluttered.
Yeah, it can make it a little tricky to keep track of what's going on screen, and it makes some things a little easy, bosses especially. But, yeah, I'm having fun with that, and I haven't been slacking on playing stuff for the show. I've usually been using my Switch when I'm not at my computer. So, yeah, that's about all I got.
All right, Twilight.
Well, obviously we've had snow over here on the East Coast, and no, we really didn't get much here though. I've been neglecting to mention the RP sessions that started several weeks ago, but due to some days we missed on, and we've been playing catch up on those. And we finally got out of the haunted mansion we were in and moved on to another town where we're helping with some conspiracies on that have been going on in the town with the local guild. And let's see now. Been playing one of the games for this Sunday. First time I've enjoyed a digital card game in a while.
Yeah.
And I'll get on to the other one a little bit later. And I think that's about it for me.
All right, so it's my go. Let's see. I didn't get snow or anything like that.
If
but
you
it
get
was
snow, we have a problem.
It's like, but it was damn windy out today. Like, that was not fun. Like, outside of the weather, let's see, a bit of a show notes. Unfortunately, we lost the archived version of last week's show due to a transfer mishap, and mentioned this on Sunday, but this is not the first time that this has happened. Usually, or previously, we had local backups, but we don't have that right now because Petty Fan's having some issues with his computer.
Mm-hmm. I need new
So-
parts, basically, and that takes money I don't have right now.
Yeah. So, as it is, last week's episode is gone. Like, this has only actually happened once before, where an episode's just gone. We've had broken episodes before, but it's unfortunate. But there's not a lot you can do when something's just gone.
Mm-hmm.
And we're not doing a retake because I think it's not really worth the effort to do a retake.
Yeah, and also we'd have to get Dimitri, and he's currently busy.
Yeah, his schedule's always a bit skittish.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. Something else I was thinking of, but it slipped my mind. Oh, that's right. That's right. We have no guests this week because it is the week of the Game Developer Conference, one of the biggest events in the industry.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, like finding a game dev guest isn't impossible, but it's really damn hard.
Mm-hmm. Because
And-
most everybody is at GDC.
Right. And and we did a few attempts outside game dev, but those proved similarly fruitless. So, it's a double topic week.
Mm-hmm.
And with that in mind, first we're talking about the 3DS, mainly because we talked a lot about the Switch and the Wii U last week, or 2 weeks ago actually, with the 1-year retrospective of the Switch, but we really didn't focus on the 3DS, because, well, the 3DS kind of is on the way. It doesn't have that direct continuity the Wii U has, even though the Switch is,
It's
maybe-
picking up a lot of the same role, but the 3DS still has more of a distinctive role. The Wii U was already trying to do off-screen play anyway, so it's really direct to the Switch.
Well, it's also the Wii U was, dead and buried well before the Switch came on the scene. Nintendo basically rode the Wii U out for a year, even though it was barren. The 3DS, as we talked about last week, is still getting games.
Mm-hmm.
Not huge, not next installments of AAA titles or anything, but it's still getting games.
Yeah, I doubt we're going to see another big Zelda or Mario on there.
And it's 7 years old at this point. And,
Yeah, the 3DS actually came out like a year before the Wii U, so...
Yeah. And it's still seeing a level of support that's not unnecessarily unheard of, but it is pretty damn rare. Like, even, especially for a portable console, like, when the DS came out, Nintendo kind of hedged their bets there for a bit of time, but within a year, The Game Boy Advance.
Yeah, it was basically done that way because in case people really didn't take to the DS's dual screen gimmick, which turned out to be a really good gimmick. So
Which
people
turned
liked it.
out to fucking print money.
Yeah, and the DS itself, hung on there for like maybe a year.
Well,
like a
that
year.
had better reasons.
Yeah, I know.
Because the
I know
3DS had a terrible, terrible launch, and let's be honest, they advertised it a lot with the 3D gimmick, and 3D was a terrible gimmick, and everyone knows it.
Well, it's not just that, but they had a pretty weak launch lineup from a first-party perspective. Anyone remember the launch titles of the 3DS?
Oh,
Well, I'll take the easy run here and say Face Raiders.
I've got the Mario hat, I've got the backpack, and I still have all the posters from when I worked at Toys R Us during launch.
Rest in peace,
it's like-
Toys
Oh,
R
that's
Us.
not the right answer. Sorry.
So the real answer is Steel Diver, Nintendogs Plus Cats, and Pilot Wings Resort.
Holy shit.
Yeah, not exactly the most scintillating lineup Nintendo's ever put together. I'm like,
Clearly,
first month
Nintendogs
did-
plus
and-
Cats is 10 out of 10 best game ever.
And the first month didn't have that much more than that, and the first year didn't have much better than that.
yeah. Now, granted, people kind of forget that the original DS had a pretty shit-tacular launch lineup and took about 6 months to turn itself around with things like the DS Lite and Kirby's Canvas Curse and New Super Mario Brothers. It took a year for the 3DS.
Thank God you could get all those Game Boy Advance games to play on your DS Fat. Sorry.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you can still play them on the Lite.
No,
too.
that the backwards compatibility really did help that line of portables.
Yeah, and you had the same case with the 3DS. It's just the 3DS was also hampered by the fact that it was too fucking expensive. It clocked in at $250. I mean, think about that. It was only $50 less than the Switch. Yeah, I know I'm not adjusting for inflation, but we're only talking about 7 years here. It's not going to be that much.
Nope.
No.
Isn't it something like $10-15?
But it was $150 cheaper than the Vita.
Rest in peace, PS
Everybody's
Vita.
like, what is this Vita thing you're talking about?
Well, we're not talking about the Vita this week.
I don't know. I was just making an allegorical slam.
I'm like, also, the 3DS was kind of beset by bad battery life in the beginning. Like, the 3DS had a lot of problems, not the least of which is the world had changed. Even in 2011, this is about the time that mobile is really breaking out. Not just iOS, but Android.
What are you talking about? High price, blinding children, terrible lineup? What could possibly go wrong?
Everything. I'm like, it wasn't the Wii U that started Nintendo's financial problems. It was the 3DS.
Right.
Like Nintendo posted the first loss, I think, since the GameCube era off the 3DS, like $1 billion loss off that first year. I think it was that year that prompted the Iwata to take and the executives to take the pay cuts.
Mm-hmm.
And this also led to the ambassador program.
The 3DS's first chunk of time was so bad that they literally had to, after they slashed the price, they had to literally issue an apology to everybody who had already got one.
So yeah,
in the form of a bunch of free NES and some Game Boy Advance games that are still there's no other way to play on a 3DS.
Yeah, I mean that just shows you how amazing the turnaround was for the 3DS. I mean, it's never going to get acknowledged for that because it's always stuck in the twin shadows here. It's stuck in the shadow of its predecessor, the DS, the best-selling handheld of all time. Just one of the best-selling video game devices of all time.
Yeah,
And
isn't
it's
it like second or third on the list?
something like that. I think it's 60, 70 million.
Yeah.
Woo!
Yeah, it's like so. It's a fair bit lower than that, but that's also because gaming also moved a lot to mobile.
Yeah.
You know,
Like if mobile never happened, I imagine the 3DS would be doing, would have sold a lot more.
and also that move to mobile kind of made some of Nintendo's newborn franchises stillborn, like the aforementioned Nintendogs plus Cats. It did all right, but it wasn't the mega breakout like the first one was. Like the first one was another killer app for the original DS, not so for the 3DS because
Right.
well, the world had changed. Like Nintendogs wasn't fresh. We had dealt with a lot of Pets clones.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah,
like the casual gamers who would have played that are now playing games on their phone.
Right. See also brain training free. Devilish training.
There was a third one?
Yes.
That shows how much of a splash that made.
Yeah, that was brain training stuff was really big on the DS because it came out before the smartphones. By the time the 3DS came out, you could get that kind of stuff on your phone if you wanted it.
For free.
I am shocked. This is my radio shocked face.
Yes.
There's a reason why Brain Age concentration went in a very, very weird direction. Like seriously, go look it up. It's kind of nuts.
How many space shooter segments does it have?
I'm like, not. I'm talking more thematically than
I figured it was worth a shot.
because its Japanese name is or in European name is Dr. Kawashima's Devilish Training, and that gets literal. Like he dons the Oni horns and everything.
Oh yeah, I remember there was a puzzle swap panel of him.
Right.
Yeah.
No. But
speaking of things that the 3DS did that were really cool that I kind of liked, the whole Street Pass idea. I mean, I live in one of the worst places in the country and possibly in the world for, I mean, not really, but it's fairly rural. The biggest city I have barely qualifies as a big town in most states. For the Street Pass stuff, but it was still a really cool idea, and it made it fun to like go to a convention or go to a place where there were other people who were likely to have one to pass people, and some of the games were actually pretty fun.
Right. Yeah, you could tell that Street Pass was such a feature meant for the Japanese.
Oh yeah, Street Pass is absolutely meant for people who go on the same subway as like 9 million other people every day.
Japanese, like New York, stuff like that.
Yeah, they started doing a thing where you could get Street Passes like from people who had been to a McDonald's or Starbucks or a few other places.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you went there, it would like record your thing and save it.
Yeah, it would cache it and then swap it to somebody else, and then later there are special events where you can get Street Pass from people around the world.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I would be remiss if not to mention that the 3DS also saw significant changes over the course of its life. Probably more so than anything since I'd say the Game Boy. Like this is the first one that got, this is the first Nintendo handheld that got a mid-generation beef up.
Mm-hmm.
The new Nintendo 3DS.
Unless you count the DSi, which you probably shouldn't.
Well, the DSi didn't really get much more power.
Yeah, the DSi had some functionality there. Chief among them, a camera.
Yeah.
But not a lot of things use the DSi. Like the DSi was kind of a quarter step up.
Yeah, I think there are like maybe 3 games in existence that are DSi only. Like there are several DSi enhanced, but there are only
the only thing that the only thing the DSi really introduced us to was the Nintendo Store, because it was there slightly ahead of the 3DS. So
yeah, the DSiWare, as they called it.
But
Yep.
yeah, the 3DS the new 3DS is a really, I mean, there aren't a ton of games that rely on it. There are like what, a handful of games that only work on the new 3DS or new 2DS now. But there are a pretty good number of games that work noticeably better on it.
Yeah, like
Smash-
Monster Hunter.
Smash- yeah.
Monster Hunter, Smash. Don't try and play that on a regular 3DS. It's not worth it.
Xenoblade Chronicles, new 3DS.
Xenoblade Chronicles is actually exclusive.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you can't.
Xenoblade Chronicles 3D is the entire reason they made the new 3DS. They just could not do it on a regular version.
That and
Mhm.
amiibos.
Yes.
Well, you can get an amiibo like dock thing for the 3DS.
Yes, but most
And
wouldn't want
yeah.
to.
Yeah.
also,
But
the
yeah.
other thing that the new 3DS gave us was a proper second C-nub.
Yes. Good
Yeah, there
God.
are
I mean,
quite a few games that use that for camera control.
yeah,
It's not
anything that
great,
uses
but it's better than not having one.
anything that uses a Circle Pad Pro will use a C-stick.
Yeah, because Nintendo in their infinite wisdom decided to go with the PSP design for portables in the beginning.
Well, it works fine for most of the early types of games, but like when you want to do like full 3D environmental games,
can
that
you
want to be
guys-
able to use the camera.
Can you guys actually name the games that work with the 8 games that work with the Circle Pad Pro? Because I own one and I haven't found any games in my library that actually do.
Both
Kid Icarus Uprising.
Kingdom Hearts
you-
Dream Drop Distance, all the Monster
there's-
Hunter games,
There was some
3,
first-person
4,
person.
Cross. Yeah, there was some
Yeah, it was-
first-person shooter.
That's me.
And I think I have one more in my case, but I don't remember what it is. I don't know where that is right now.
I got one for free and I think I paid too much.
Well,
Okay, there are way more than 8 games that work with it.
yeah. Here's the thing: the Circle Pad Pro works with C-stick games as well. So
Monster Hunter 3 Ultimate, Ace Combat, which I don't think came out here, but I'm not sure. Ace Combat 3D Cross Rumble, that is. Resident Evil Revelations, Metal Gear Solid Snake Eater 3D, Kid Icarus Uprising, Kingdom Hearts 3D Dream Dot Distance, a few Muso games, another Monster Hunter 4. Let's see, this is not sorted by ones that were released in the US. Steel Diver Sub Wars, Senran Kagura 2 Deep Crimson, Final Fantasy Explorers, Majora's
That's
Mask,
what I was thinking of.
Codename Steam, for all the like 3 people who got that. I actually have it and it's cool, but it's a little clunky. It looks like a Super Robot Tyson game, Legend of the Dark Witch 2. I don't know what I would even use it for. Metroid Prime Federation Force and Monster Hunter Generations, and there are some other ones, but that's most of the ones listed here. But yeah, it's because a lot of games use it as like, oh, here's a left-handed option for if you want to. But yeah, having having that basically built in, even if it's a tiny nub, is definitely better.
Camera controls alone.
Yeah, again, there are a lot of types of games where you don't have to worry about camera control, but for the ones that do,
like with Monster Hunter, the way it basically wanted you to like snap the camera to the monster, and like it would actually start making me sick.
And that's one of the better improvements in Majora's Mask 3D, and I think Ocarina of Time 3D, but I'm not 100% sure. Is that you actually have camera control.
Yep.
And then there was the mainline gimmick, the 3D gimmick.
Ah, yes, the gimmick's so important that they released a later, cheaper version of the thing that didn't have it at all.
Well, that was because of the children. Remember that the eye strain warning.
Did that
Yeah, but
did that
also
ever
3D was never-
actually like injure a child, or were they just concerned it could?
It's not an injuring it's not like an injury thing. It's long-term use can damage your eye's development more. But yeah, it's the 3D was always a gimmick, and frankly, they started planning this probably when 3D and TV and stuff was big. And then by the time it came out, people were already starting to get a little bit sick of 3D and everything.
Well, it wasn't just 3D. It was touted as glasses-free 3D.
Yeah, that's like the whole big thing. You don't need those stupid fucking glasses.
Yeah, and the way that works is that it's depth rather than popping out at you.
I have an astigmatism, so playing games in 3D mode makes me want to puke.
Yeah.
I don't have an astigmatism, and I still don't get much out of it.
Yet paradoxically, this also had gyro controls.
Yep,
The
but
gyro
like
controls were used well.
half of a game used it.
No, there were a few games that used the gyro controls fairly well. Actually, one of the fun ones that I didn't get a whole lot of thing with. It's actually like a side app for Pokemon Black and White.
Oh, right, that,
Dream
yeah.
Radar game is actually kind of fun.
I mean, they forced me to use it in Sonic Lost World, and I wanted to go strangle somebody. Guess
Yeah,
how the special stage worked.
I think they released a patch for that made it so you didn't need to use it.
Well, I still got all 7 Chaos Emeralds with it, and I wanted to strangle somebody.
Just like they did for the waggle controls in the Wii U version.
Wii U!
Indeed.
Yeah,
And-
I haven't used my 3DS that much since the Switch came out. I feel kind of bad about that, but it was really good for a long time.
Yeah. And the 3DS has certainly amassed quite the software library. Not just the usual Nintendo first-party offerings, but like Atlas, I think, is the absolute superstar of the 3DS. Yeah.
And not just Atlas, there were a lot of like pretty niche RPG type things that got put on the 3DS, but a lot of them were Atlas.
I'm still shocked they haven't brought like Persona 3 or 4 over to the 3DS, like actually.
Yeah, Sony might not have wanted them to. Plus the portable version and the golden, I think, are not designed in such a way that would work as well.
Mm-hmm.
Fair enough.
I mean, and there's still like, not like there were a lot of gimmicks stuffed into this thing. Like, anyone remember the AR cards?
I lost all of mine.
I still have them somewhere, but yeah, there were a few. They were useful for the photo taking app, and there were a few games that like had their own AR cards. Unfortunately, most of those didn't get really released in the US, partially because I think a lot of people cheated on them and just printed things out. So like, there was no point
you
in
could
selling.
just hold your fucking 3DS up to like a decent computer screen and cheat it.
Yep.
Yeah, but like Kid Icarus Uprising had a bunch of AR cards.
I had a free
in
one.
addition to filling up your data library, you could also have the cards fight.
I'm trying to remember where the hell I got my Kid Icarus card from, because I never bought the game, so...
They gave them away at GameStop once.
Yeah, I got it with something.
Yeah. Oh, well,
They're like, all right, so here's this pre-order, and here's your Kid Icarus card. And I said, what the fuck for? I didn't order Kid Icarus.
Man, that was a really... I mean, the controls were weird, but that was a really good game, and I liked it a lot.
Yeah. Right, so we need to move on to our second topic here soon. So, final thoughts on the 3DS family.
All in all, it was fine, but I wonder what they're gonna if itself is gonna get a successor, or is it gonna be folded into the Switch essentially? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think there's some benefit to having. I mean, Nintendo is really the only game developer that's really pulled this off, but I think they have had some benefit in having two different platforms. But they did sort of merge their development teams, I think, so they might not.
I guess only Nintendo knows at this moment in time. So,
Mhm.
you know, we do know that the 3DS is going to be supported up into 2019. You know, with the release of the Bowser's Inside Story remake coming that year.
Mhm.
So, no matter what the 3DS has had a very impressive turnaround.
Indeed.
Mhm.
All right, Petty Fan, play us to the next segment. Right. So our second topic of the evening wasn't initially going to be this. We were going to talk about the Wii U, but then a news story popped up and changed everything.
And then the Fire Nation attacked.
Are we going to talk about the Grand Stream saga? Wait, sorry.
That's actually an illusion because we're talking about THQ. I'm like,
Mine was
mainly-
actually more on the nose.
yeah. Now, we have had the successor company, THQ Nordic, on our program before a couple years back. Like, we've been trying to get them back, but scheduling has been problematic. It happens, you know. But, yeah, so the THQ Nordic seems to be reassembling the old THQ about as closely as possible. Because in the news today, they struck a deal with Nickelodeon to bring back some of the quote-unquote classic Nicktoons titles.
Really, I hadn't heard anything about this.
They posted in the Skype chats. This
Yeah,
morning.
probably while I was at work or out. Sorry.
Yeah, it was like, well, yeah. So, and on top of that, THQ just purchased Deep Silver, who you might know is the owner of things like Volition Software, a former THQ studio, and owner of previous THQ franchises, Metro, what is it? Saints Row. There we go.
We're getting the band back together, Elroy, with the band.
Oh God, Elroy?
I don't know. My brain meats hurt.
Elwood.
Elwood, there we go.
God.
English is hard. Fuck you.
Elroy is the Jetsons kid.
God, you damn kids.
Illinois Nazis. I hate Illinois Nazis.
All right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Speaking of, there's a GOP Never mind.
Jesus Christ, no, not now.
No. That is.
Why do you think I trailed off? I trailed off. Wave off. The pattern is full. Moving on.
So my overall point is, you know, while it's obviously different, like THQ Nordic has a lot of franchises THQ never touched, and I don't think THQ's ever going to get their hands on, say, Relic Entertainment or Company of Heroes. Sega seems to be quite happy with those. You know, it's like the THQ of old has basically been revived, only it's, well, Nordic. You know, and
But what is putting it in Scandinavia do?
Well, for one, they're not doing stupid shit that killed THQ in the first place, like that U-Draw tablet.
Oh.
So yeah, going back to the old THQ, like if you grew up in, let's say, 7th generation going backwards, you probably played some of their games, but it was really more in the latter days. They became known for like video game franchises, you know, the stuff like Darksiders, The Blob, Red Faction, all that stuff. For most of their existence, they were known as the king of licensed games. Now, going all the way back to their inception as Toy Headquarters.
That's where the THQ comes from.
Yeah, THQ.
We discussed this on MSP like 7 years ago.
I thought they were just thick.
Well, yeah, it's like we're doing an update to this.
Oh, I know. I'm just calling back to it in case anybody wants to reference it.
Because THQ, they were a toy company. Really comparable to LJN at that moment in time.
Sorry.
Don't stroke out, friend. We have more to discuss.
Yeah.
I
It's
know.
like-
I've been rewatching The Angry Video Game Nerd, and the term chuckle nuts comes to mind.
Yeah, I'm like, well, they were both pretty notable in that they were toy manufacturers and their video games were shit. Like, people like it's popular to really bash on LJN, but holy fuck, THQ produced so much shit.
I know,
Like-
but LJN was so perfect. Laughing, joking, numbnuts. Thank you, ABGN.
No, I get that. I mean, and obviously Acclaim is up there too, even though at a certain point Acclaim and LGN become the same thing.
Yeah, but I mean, at least Acclaim had Wizards and Warriors for a hot minute.
Fair enough. I mean, what THQ had, from what I remember, back in the day, Home Alone games.
Oh man, I played Home Alone 2. I think I beat the first stage once.
And then lit the cartridge on fire?
No, just it died like 10 seconds to stage 2.
Yeah.
I used up all of my gigantic punching glove bazookas on the fucking chef.
Oh, Jesus. I think I'd much rather talk about the Grand Stream Saga.
I think I'd rather go drink Clorox.
That's pretty much what playing one of the Home Alone games is like.
It was.
Like, especially the NES version. Holy fuck! Even on shit games, that was a shit game. Like, I'm surprised that one hasn't made the rounds on more shitty video game reviewer shows. Kind of deal. Like, but yeah, it's like THQ made a whole bunch of licensed games. Chief among them, Nickelodeon games, and apparently there's nostalgia for that.
I'm looking at this list of things that they're going to bring back the games of, and some of these, a couple of these I don't actually really know what is, but most of them I don't really know. Like, were the games based on those any good?
I'm like, usually no. I'm like, especially if we're going to the 16-bit era, then it's a hard no.
No.
Like they're renting.
Some of these are franchises that you could make good games based on, but like Avatar: The Last Airbender, Danny Phantom, you could totally do good games based on those.
Ugh.
Yeah, you could.
I am not inclined to believe that they did.
Apparently, they did some decent SpongeBob games.
Yeah.
I'll be honest.
The thing with SpongeBob is you can do anything with SpongeBob. You could literally make SpongeBob real-time tactics, and it would not be tonally out of place.
It's just looking. I'm just looking through the list of games.
Yeah.
Oh, they did Drawn to Life. That was cute.
Yeah, that's one of the few game franchises they didn't acquire. That's over with 505 Games. Yeah, they've produced a lot of games over the years, but like I said, it's only really when you get to the 2000s when you start getting like notable original franchises. Destroy All Humans, Red Faction, that kind of deal.
Right. There's a lot of obscure RPGs and other weird stuff in this list, but yeah, just
they were a jack of all trades. Like, yeah, they published shit like Summoner, and yeah, they did do the Western version of the Grand Stream Saga and Quest 64. I'm thinking the Alien Chronicles. Did they do Quest?
No, they did Quest 64.
Yeah, I'm like, yeah.
Which think anybody in their right mind should call that a good game.
No, it's
It
no.
had an odd charm to it.
Quest
but
64,
yeah, it was overall
which was
bad.
absolutely a game.
It's absolutely a game. Is that all you could muster?
I never actually played it. I kind of wanted
I
to
have a
when I had
copy
it
of
at 64.
I have
Yeah, I
a
own a
copy
copy.
of it.
I do too. It had an odd charm to it, but yeah, and
The-
objectively, it was bad.
The downscaling annoys me. The fact that the text is mostly blurry in the game kind of pisses me off. What else? Oh yeah, the plot is extraordinarily pedestrian and pedantic,
Mm-hmm.
and the dialogue reads kind of like they're dumbing it down to make the first graders seem smart. It was really. And it's extraordinarily boring and repetitive, and the control scheme is completely inscrutable. But other than that, it's perfectly fine.
Yeah, that's the thing about THQ's games for most of their existence. They weren't considered to be, good. Especially their licensed shit.
Oh, come on now. How can you disparage a company that put out a game called All-Star Cheer Squad?
Pretty easily, actually. They did have some gems, like Tack and the Power of Juju. Like, that was actually a game series before it was a Nickelodeon animated series that no one remembers.
It had, what, 6 episodes?
Maybe more than that, but, as opposed to, like, the 4 or so games the Tack series had. Like, from what I understand, a lot of their 3D stuff was passable. Like some of the absolute shitheels was actually like their Disney Pixar stuff, like Monsters Inc. Scream Arena. Like, just absolutely fucking terrible.
Don't Google that.
There's so many games here that I've never even heard of. Blaze and Blade Eternal Quest.
When we say THQ made a lot of shit, they made a lot of shit.
Yeah,
I mean, the artwork for the box looks amazing, but I'm pretty sure pretty sure there's an inverse property here.
Yeah.
The better the game art, the better the box art looks, the shittier the game. I'm sure if I look hard enough, the AVGN did an episode of that.
Insert joke about phalanx.
The slow
And then-
blade pierces the shield.
Yeah, and THQ also went into weird areas like bringing Microsoft games to Nintendo's portables, like or not just publishing Rare's sadly forgotten Game Boy Advance output, but also like Microsoft franchises like Age of Empires and MechAssault. Or no, that was Majesco. No, Zoo Tycoon, that's the other one.
I honestly forgot those even happened.
Yeah. I mean, I want to say they published Viva Pinata, Pocket Paradise. Like I said, it was a weird area. They also published a lot of Sega's games on the Game Boy Advance. Overall, yeah, THQ had some original franchises. They expanded a lot, bought a whole bunch of developers, what have you. But they really made their money off, junk license. Like, are you smarter than a fifth grader?
Yeah, about 45 SpongeBob games.
Yeah, no, seriously, there are a lot of SpongeBob games.
Oh God, they made the Tack series.
Yeah. But anyway, why THQ went under was a combination of factors. Chief among them, the licensed game market just absolutely crashed last generation. The generally attributed to the rise of mobile, and kids moving to those platforms, and THQ really never realigned itself back in that direction.
Yeah, because it was something like 50, 60 grand at cheap to put a game on like the 360 or something. You could put a game on mobile for a few hundred.
Hmm. And keep in mind, we are talking about the most like among the most disposable portions of the video game industry. It's really surprising that the modern day THQ Nordic is going back and reviving these games. Like,
well, not all of them were terrible.
Yeah, it's like there seems to be some nostalgia for some of the SpongeBob games.
Yeah, like
but by and large,
the Nickelodeon kart racer from the early 2000s wasn't the worst thing.
Yeah, but by and large, these games were average at best, absolute trash at worst, and utterly fucking forgettable. They were designed that way. They weren't designed to tell a story or immerse you in a world or have great gameplay. They were widgets with a cartoon sponge on the top box that you gave to your kids so they'd shut up for an afternoon.
Yeah, you gave it to little Billy because he liked SpongeBob and you wanted him to be quiet for a few hours.
Yeah. Anyway, and getting back to the THQ crash, generally considered to be the point where THQ just hit a death spiral was the U-Draw tablets.
They were trying, from what I remember, they were trying to basically get back into toys because the licensed game market just blew up.
Well, it's also they had a hit with the original U-Draw on the Wii.
And then they realized, oh shit, the 360 and PS3 can't do that without us making peripheral.
Yeah, and it just did not work out. And they lost a shit ton of money on the U-Draw.
Oh yeah, like few billion?
More like something like that. I'd have to look up how much they lost.
They lost more than most. Oh, go ahead.
No, THQ was not that big of a company. They have according to the Wikipedia page, they never had a net operating revenue of higher than 150 million.
Yeah, they were like the third biggest publisher at one point, but we're talking like PlayStation 2 era, where gaming in general was just a lot smaller of a market.
Yeah,
and that was another thing that ultimately killed them. They had to go big or go home. This is where they go into the the AAA business, and this is what killed a lot of companies.
Yeah, they tried to go AAA, but no one there was able to do anything more that wasn't licensed ware crap.
Well, it's not only that. It's like Darksiders 2, for example, their last major release needed to sell 3 million to break even.
And Darksiders is a pretty alright game. It's just,
and it did near that number, but it was still like only 2.5 mil. And yeah, it's like it's not surprising that THQ died. They like the last generation was really punctuated by the collapse of the middle section of the old guard. And it's only in very recent times we're seeing a reemergence of a new gaming middle class. Chief among them is from Europe. Like THQ Nordic is kind of leading the charge there.
Yeah, because the low end just jumped ship and went to mobile, and the middle was stuck in a crossroad where they didn't know if they wanted to go to mobile or try and tough it out on consoles. The ones who tried to tough it out on consoles are no longer with us.
Yeah, and like the middle, the middle tier has largely been replaced by indies, but I will state that the B tier publisher hasn't completely died out. It's just a lot of them are foreign, whether they be Japanese or European based. And we just had not a mega merger, but a mini minor merger with THQ and Deep Silver, which puts them in an even bigger position, just not taking the risks that the old THQ had to take, because THQ has better revenue stream. THQ Nordic has better revenue streams than the old THQ did. They're not reliant on something as fickle as children's licenses. You know, they're doing the Nickelodeon thing as part of, their overall strategy of relying on their back catalog, because THQ Nordic has become kind of the 800-pound gorilla of obscure IP. They own a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
And, the majority of their output is remasters or re-releases of these old games on different platforms. And, it's not it's not Ubisoft money or EA money, but it pays the bills. It's stable income, as they've said. So much so that's a lot, and they do publish new things, either new iterations of some of their old franchises, like there's a Darksiders 3 in development, for example, or the Guild 3, or Spellbound 3. That's from like the Joe Wood Dreamcatcher set. And they publish new things like what was that comic? Nightcaster game?
I don't remember offhand.
But like blanking on the name, but I'm gonna have to look this up now. I know what it is, but I don't remember what it's called. Like Nightwish? No, that's a. I'm like, and like it was last year.
Live research.
Yeah. One of our. Oh, jeez. This is gonna drive me nuts until I find it. Wolfpack, no. War Leaders, no. I'm like, no, that's properties acquired. That's why that's not working. This isn't something they acquired. It's something that they're publishing, all on their own. God damn. Hate it when this happens. Hate it when this happens. Battle Chasers Night War. That's it.
And we did it.
Hot diggity.
Yeah, like this is a role-playing game based off a '90s comic book that they
that lasted like 12 issues.
Yeah, but it got a Kickstarter campaign and they picked it up. In fact, we're reviewing a THQ Nordic game this week, Rad Rogers, which is another one of their many pickups. They picked this up from 3D Realms. Like,
Jesus.
this is actually a new game that is an homage to old games.
It's
unfortunately,
like especially Commander Keen.
Mm-hmm. Or Duke Nukem. I'd say Duke Nukem, like Duke Nukem 1 and 2 especially. Like, it's really leaning in on the Apogee 2D platformers of old. Unfortunately, I don't like anything about that game, but I'll get into that in its review. Point is, like, THQ Nordic has a lot of stuff that they've been making new versions of. Titan's Quest, for example, just hit the PlayStation 4 and Xbox One. And they did a new expansion pack of that like last year. But on the other hand, they've got things like Biomutant coming up, a wholly original game. Or Fade to Silence, which is in early access right now. So THQ Nordic seems to have a good mix here with a lot going on. And hopefully we can get them back on the show. But with that in mind, any final thoughts on the THQ of old?
Not really. Like, it kind of just went the way of the dodo because of poor decisions.
Yeah, I don't know. I'll be honest. I was kind of surprised with how much nostalgia was invoked with their Nickelodeon games. Granted,
Well, a lot of those are for cartoon series that people already have.
Well, that's just because in my era growing up, the games were so much worse. Like they're 16-bit. You know, the Ren and Stimpy games, Rocko's Modern Life, Real Monsters, all fucking awful.
Yeah.
Like, just not like those can stay buried in whatever fucking landfills they ended in. The mediocre PlayStation 2 SpongeBob games, yeah, I could see why those would connect with kids. You know, game design that is safe and bland, but not necessarily terrible. You know, although apparently Battle for Bikini Bottom is a legitimately good game, so I'm told. Once again, I don't know. It's like SpongeBob was, yeah, kind of after my period of dealing with Nickelodeon games. Hey, anyone else?
Not really. Not that I can think
Yeah,
of.
I don't know. I never played too many of their games, so
I had a few fond memories of their games like Red Faction and there's another one there, but anyway, but yeah, I don't have many fond memories with them, honestly.
All right, so that'll about do it for this installment of Fragments of Silicon. The week ahead. So up this Sunday, we have 3 reviews. The aforementioned Rad Rogers, a game called Guppy, which is a game where you play as an actual guppy. And Fable Fortune, the newest installment of the Fable franchise. It's back in card game form.
Oh,
Not
fuck.
quite Pogs, but closer than you think.
God help us all.
It's actually a lot better than I thought it would be.
Yeah, it is.
Like, it helps that it has, you know, a pretty substantial single-player campaign where you don't have to put any money in all. I mean, it's got some walls that are bullshit, but I'll get into that on Sunday. Anyway, coming up next week. So we have a Tuesday show scheduled, although the guest hasn't gotten back to me because GDC week. But we are slated on Tuesday, March 27th, to have Douglas Bogart of Limited Run Games back on the program, just in time for their first Switch release. Like, seriously, that's coming out the 30th, and it's a game we've actually covered on the show extensively, Thimbleweed Park.
oh man, that game.
Yeah, I know.
I didn't get to play as much of that as I wanted to, but it was a pretty good
yeah, it was one of the better games.
What's the word? Like a new, old, stylish adventure game.
Yeah, like and on Wednesday, March 28th, we will be having Rob Mayer and possibly the rest of Castle Pixel. We've actually this is another. We actually showcased the game of theirs last year, and that's Blossom Tales. It's a Zelda clone. That's
closer to the original Zeldas than a lot of Zelda clone. The original Zelda.
Yeah, specifically Link to the Past. And, you know, it didn't
super low-res graphics.
Yeah, it didn't do a lot of business on Steam, but it absolutely blew up on the Nintendo Switch. They also did a game called Rex Rocket, which I think Naka featured way back in the day. Or no, it's Rex Rocket. You know, so we're going to be talking about those and maybe see what they have next in store. You know, and anyway, also we're probably going to have a multiplayer session on Friday showcasing Fable Fortune's co-op mode.
Okay, I will try and get it done before then so that I have cards.
Okay, all right. Until then, until Friday, I wish you good gaming.